What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be working on the BMW. Now, the other day when I was working on the tractor, getting the hose for the hoe, we also got something else in today, which is good. We're starting to get some parts in, which is what we needed. So when I was working on the hoe, we had to replace this one hydraulic line. So I had to drive about an hour away from where I was working to actually start, get the hose replaced. And unfortunately, while I was out and about, the wheel hub, or the bearing inside the hub on the the passenger side, seized up on me. I was able to nurse it home without any real incident, but we got to change that out today. Realistically, this car's treated me very well. And I know a lot of people think BMW is very expensive, but if you, shop right, you go to, Rock Auto or SCP Euro, stuff like that, you can save yourself a lot of money. Now, this bearing assembly, this whole hub, cost me $100. It's made by Moog, and they're supposed to be really, really good. I've used their other products in this BMW. So the things that have actually failed on this car are actually very, very small things. The alternator died. I had to replace one of the sway arms, or control arms rather. And when you do one, you do the other. And I will be doing the other bearing on this next week. Trying to stagger what I'm spending my money on. Just got the new inner fender for the satellite. I'm still waiting on other parts so we can start working on this. I've decided to pull the trigger on 2 new fenders. I'm picking them off of Classic Industries, because this is from, let me see, this one was from Auto Metal Direct. So a lot of the stuff I am able to get from them. However, a lot of the other components I can't. So I'm going to go ahead, pull the trigger on 2 new fenders. This thing is going to be a lot nicer than the original plan. The original plan was just to knock the dents out, but we're in this car to the point where a lot has been repaired, a lot has been, modified and stuff like that. We might as well new door, new fenders, knock dents out that we can, and get this thing painted so it looks nice, pretty. Oh, new bumper, grill, that kind of stuff. Oh, the other thing that I do need to pick up is the that is called the, not cowl, that is the, you guys know. Anyways, back to the BMW. So other than a control arm, so you replace both, a wheel bearing, an alternator, the other thing is while we have this apart, we do have to check to see what's going on with the bank 1 O2 sensor number 2. So that's the furthest one down, which is actually one of the easier ones to get to. I have a specialty tool just for this style car. So we have a sensor bad, and I want to see if it's the sensor or if it's the exhaust. The exhaust on this thing is generally made out of really nice stainless steel, so I don't think that's going to be the problem. And down below, comment to let me know what you think. Would you guys like to see this thing finished? I know a lot of you guys are more into the old muscle car, and this thing has just kind of been on the sidelines. We have to go ahead, we have to replace the window. I don't know what the heck happened here, but that is actually scratches in the glass. And I also have a crack from a rock on the other side. The gasket's completely coming apart. So we need to go ahead and get a window replaced. The rest of the windows are fine. I have some body work to do on here. Would you guys like a series of body work on this car? Say maybe not next month, but the month after that? Comment down below, let me know what you think. But today, let's go ahead, pull that off, check the sensor, and replace the hub on this side. Fairly straightforward job today. Let's get into it. Actually, before we go ahead and get into it, there's a feature of this car that I'd really like to put in the Buick when we start reassembling that car. Believe it or not, I think what I'll do is I'll try finding another one of these things, potentially wrecked in the front end or something along those lines, because I really like the way it's cold up here. Not right now, but so, also tools, always carry tools. But I really like the way that the fuse system is inside this vehicle. I like the way they put their battery. I would really like to emulate that kind of style. And on the other side, we have our first aid kit and everything, but we have like the GPS and stuff like that inside this. So it'd be really cool to find another 5 Series around the same time period as this and emulate the overall setup. I would put a battery on both sides to even out the weight, kind of like how they do in the M5. But yeah, I really love that setup. I really love that setup. So I would like to emulate that in the back of the Buick. So if we go over here, I also have to bring these seats down to be reupholstered, and I can't find a good kit that I like. So there's a place out in Schenectady that does really good work, but oh, there was water in that. So we have plenty of room to emulate that kind of styling inside the back of the Buick. So I think it would be very convenient. It would be really nice to clean up the actual engine bay, hide away the battery, put one on both sides, evens out the weight, and they do that, as like I said, in the M5. So we do have a new floor pan for this, so when we do this, it's gonna be nice, very nice. All right, let's it's funny because that's probably the nicest part of the entire car is the bottom of the trunk lid. Unfortunately, the rest of the trunk is rotten, so unfortunately we need a new trunk lid. Anywho, yes, we got some parts in and pieces. I can talk all day. Let's get to work, guys. Now that we have this completely disassembled, the rotor looks good. I don't see any telling signs of it being warped or anything like that, but it got hot in here. You can actually hear it grinding a little bit inside there, and every so often it gets hung up on a bearing. It feels like on this side right here. So this is definitely the cause of the issue. And the other day when I pulled it apart while it was still hot, this would not move. It was just locked. Unfortunately, it did get very hot, and you can actually see that the seal around the piston on this caliper is completely off from where it's supposed to be. It must have gotten, so when you have something that gets really, really hot, like almost glowing red hot, you can actually have almost like an instant type of rust. And if you look at this piston, that's exactly what it looks like, especially going up into the sleeve. So this is absolutely no good. We are going to have to replace it. As far as this goes, we have the new one down there. When we put the new bolts in, I'm going to just use a low strength Loctite. I would definitely not recommend using a high strength. A middle strength will work as well, but going through the actual bolts going to hold the wheel back on, these, they're not lug nuts, but the lugs. When we put this back on, we'll clean the threads and go ahead and throw some anti-seize on here. Or you can also use no locks. I like the copper bearing anti-seize. So first is, I'm actually going to leave probably 2 bolts in here. Just makes it a little bit easier to give it a good tug if I need to. And go ahead and pull these 2 bolts. Oh, that's not the right one. There we go. Pull these 4 bolts off the back of it and see if we can't get this off today, and hopefully find a caliper today as well. All right, back to it. So unfortunately, here's a couple things I'm disappointed with. The design of this actual whole setup, this whole thing is like a puzzle. And this crazy contraption that they have set up for holding your struts actually blocks your access to your hub. And here's another disappointing thing. These are only a year old, and they look like they're 5. So I have to find out which ones I got. They were from Rock Auto, but I am very disappointed in these. The boot's already broken, and she's rusted pretty bad in several spots. Not quality, guys, not quality at all. They weren't cheap, I remember. So disappointed in these struts. And another thing I'm disappointed in, so I did make a wrench with a really crazy angle to get through behind it and break. Oh yeah, there you go. That's what I'm disappointed in. This was a Craftsman from my local hardware store, and she broke, so I welded her back up, and then obviously I didn't weld it very well, so she broke twice. Once on my weld. Actually, it looks like it might have been next to my weld, so it probably got a little bit heat tempered or something. But yeah, trying to break this free, she actually sheared off. So disappointed in Craftsman. Chinese, modern Craftsman, older Craftsman, very awesome. New Craftsman, disappointing. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish taking off the hub. I was hoping I didn't have to dismantle the whole front suspension so that I could do this, but in order for you to get it, you do have to take your sway bar linkage apart so that this comes free, and then this just slides out. So Yeah, this was a little bit more involved than I was hoping for. But hey, so isn't the way most of this stuff goes. So yeah, it's okay. We have that to look at every so often, just inspire us and keep us moving. So let's go ahead, finish taking the hub off, put the new hub on, and reassemble this mess. All right, back to work. So here's a trick I showed in an earlier video. I believe it was when I was taking apart that car suspension. If you take a little bit of this no-locks or anti-seize, in this case anti-seize, I prefer the copper stuff, and you put some on the thread while it's still in there. And as you're backing it out, what will happen is the no-locks, or anti-seize in this situation, will actually lubricate the threads as it's pulling it out. And then if it's seizing up, you push it back in, and then it will work its way down the thread. So that's what I'm doing currently with this one. I will go in one direction, which is, let's see what, that's okay. So we're tightening now. Now we're gonna go ahead and loosen it. Wait, oh, no, sorry, we're tightening it now. So you go back and forth, and eventually you'll come out without giving you too much of a hassle. So back to taking this wonderful hub off. What's the hub up, guys? Now that we have the old hub off, we're going to go ahead and clean up this area, and I'm actually going to put a little bit of anti-seize around the edge, just for one, it'll lubricate it as it goes in, and if we ever have to, and I really hope we don't have to, 155,000 miles, I hope we never have to again, switch out the wheel bearing. So we'll go ahead, rebolt this hub back in, and get ready to reassemble the entire assembly. I did actually find, sorry, the impact gun while your head's inside there is really loud, but I did find a new caliper at AutoZone, which coincidentally something else just got to AutoZone, and Jim G knows what it is. So Jim G, we're going to be sending you up something. Well, I keep saying we, I have like multiple personalities inside here. But I'm going to be sending you up something very shortly, along with everything else that was supposed to make it up there the last time. So look for the mail up at Nick's garage. All right, Jim? All right, let's go ahead, get this cleaned up, put a little bit of anti-seize on it, button it all back together, and hope for the best, guys. That's all we can do. Real quick, guys, something I want to show you. So while we're reassembling the actual mechanism, we're going to have our bolts. Now, this Loctite or thread locker, just a little bit right down the threads. As you tighten it, as you can see already, it's starting to actually seep through the threads. As you're spinning it, it will actually do the same thing. So don't use a lot, a little goes a long way. Now that we have the hub on and we have it torqued down to specifications, and we have the sensor that's on the back side of here in, make sure you don't pinch that while reassembling your sway bar linkage and everything. That would be very unfortunate. They're not cheap. But once that's all together, we now have to go ahead, put this right here at the bottom, makes life a little bit easier. And then we have to take and reinstall. We'll have to get some brake clean so that we get this all nice and clean before putting it all back together. But we line that up there. We take this little keeper like so. And once it's in there, we send her home. And now she is a little bit off-centered, but we'll be able to figure that out in just a minute. I have to run down to AutoZone, get ourselves our new calipers so we can reassemble this thing and have a functional dadmobile again. All right, guys, today is a totally different day. Unfortunately, sometimes getting parts takes a little while, but we have the new caliper in, so we have to go ahead and take this right back off, slap the new one back on. And if we go over here, this is a big thank you to Jim G up in Montreal for helping out on that the dyno day. And he had one favor of me. It took a while to get because none of the local AutoZones had them, but some Duralast specific 4300 ignition wires, and it's because they have the yellow writing on it, which is supposed to be very similar to the original Mopar one. So they'll be in the mail for you probably midway this week. And yeah, so thank you very much, Jim G. I really appreciate your help up there. So let's go ahead and start tearing this down. I also got more parts for this. We are probably a little bit further off on working on the frame rail than I was originally expecting. Parts are taking a little while to get. Like I showed you, the new inner fender's in, and I have, you'll see what's, the plan for this thing has changed. But let's go ahead, get back on the BMW so that we can get this thing on the road and thrashing around again. So here's a lesson that I really need to translate into automotive stuff. Right out of college, I didn't pursue what my degree was in because I was offered to become a store manager, literally right out the gate. And when you're that young and someone says, hey, and you're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take that kind of money. At the end of the day, what I learned was to trust but verify. And I learned that with the 318, and I'm learning this with, you know, picking up parts from ye old stores. Trust but verify. So, all right, we got to go ahead and make sure that all this stuff gets in there just right and move forward. But yeah, she bolted in right. And that's what we wanted the whole time. All right, back to it. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking, how much did this bring your wallet cost? Well, because I have the really, really expensive brake pads in here, they're carbon infused, so they have, you know, I didn't replace the rotor with the cross-drilled and slotted, but I didn't think I was going to really ever need that much of, you know, the coolant throughout the system. But I did get the better brakes on it. So I didn't replace the rotor nor the brakes because these are like $200. These are really expensive. You can get the regular daily driver ones, are a lot less expensive. They wear a little bit quicker and they don't have the stopping capacity as these higher end ones. But you know, that aside, you're talking, if I was to replace the rotor at this, I would have replaced the brakes at the pads at the same time. So that would have been $75 for a rotor. If I did the same exact pads, it's $200 for the pads. Caliper cost me, now you can get pads that are like 40 bucks. I like these particular pads. I have them on the Supra as well. This thing stops on a dime. It's an awesome, awesome car. I don't care what people say, especially this old BMW 530i, or I would love an M5, same generation. They are driver cars. And if I have to, you know, have a dad mobile and have car seats, I want something that can haul and stop real quick. So that's why I love this car so much. It needs paint, I know. It needs paint. But we still need we need to bleed the brakes yet. And like $75 for the rotor. The caliper was $75, $45 core charge, but I had already taken it off. So, you know, rebuilt is a lot better than new. You're going to spend a lot of money on a brand new one of these. And the hub was $110. Yeah, I want to say $110. So I'm approximately, because I didn't do the rotor because I didn't want to replace the pads. The pads still have a lot of life on them. And not that I think it would have been, you know, they would have jived bad. It's just there's plenty of meat left on this one. You know, sometimes you don't have to replace things if you don't have to. So I didn't. And other than that, so 110, 75, and what else did I do? Minus all the driving around. So we're in it. We'll call it 200, 220 bucks. You know, miscellaneous things. Putting you're going to need Loctite. You're going to need brake fluid, stuff like that. So we'll call it 220. I think that's fair. Taxes, because I live in New York. But you got to make sure that this thing is aligned properly. So when you first put it on, you're going to have this thing fairly tight, get it to where you want it to be, then loosen it up a little bit until you get it aligned. And then once you start tightening it again, it'll actually align itself. And then you'll have a nice fit. Now, I just got to go ahead, bleed the brakes, put the wheel back on, and go for a test drive. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Well, guys, I gotta say, everything worked out very well. I either need to lose some weight though, or something, because I did the, you know, wait until there's nobody behind you, deserted area, 60 to 0 stop, and I felt my cheeks move forward. So that's not good. So she stops, and she stops really well. Also, I did check out the O2 sensor on the bottom. So this would be bank 1, that'd be bank 2, and you follow the second bank down, and it's hard to get a camera up there. And as far as I can tell, I don't see any damage to the actual exhaust. It's stainless steel, and I haven't seen one of these rot out before, so it's just probably a bad O2 sensor. So I'll pick one of them up next week or in the next coming week, and or a few weeks, I don't know, before I need to get it inspected. And we'll replace that. But other than that, guys, she's good to go. So if you like this type of content, let me know. I know most of my content is focused on the older stuff, but I like all vehicles. I really do. I enjoy the four wheels. I'm not a motorcycle person, just because I don't think I'm mature enough for one of those. But yeah. On that, guys, remember, always have fun, keep your shiny side up, and God bless.